Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is Global Reality Radio Network.
Edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being here with us and flapping those wings and getting Moonbatty with us for another late night show. This is the Tuesday edition of the broadcast, March the 27th into Wednesday, March 28th, 2012. And we are live here with you tonight. We're going to be getting into a whole big bunch of news and interesting, crazy stories that just fit right in with a lot of the stuff we talked about on other shows recently, and a lot of these very interesting science-related stories and new discoveries and things, and how they kind of tie into some of the stuff we cover and talk about here. It's just astounding the amount of these that are coming out on a daily basis now. So that we're going to be getting into a lot of those here for you tonight on the broadcast. So thanks for being with us. And also we have time tonight. We also will start a new series of reading. And let me get you the exact title of that in just a second so that you can go ahead and get prepared and get yourself a PDF copy of this thing. That way when we get ready to start reading it, because there is a PDF copy of this out there. It's called The Astral Planet, Scenery, Inhabitants, and Phenomena by C.W. Ledbetter. This is a Theosophical Society book out of England. This is the version of the Theosophical Society that took over Helena Blavatsky's work. And then subsequently, after that, the Fabian Socialist Society kind of got a hold of it. And then in conjunction with some of the Alice Bailey stuff, you saw the formation of the Lucius Trust in America. And that's when these teachings and these stuff that went back to Helena Blavatsky became corrupted and used for the expansion of the global agenda. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. And they've set up their conspiracy crowd to attack Blavatsky, and everybody thinks Blavatsky was a Satanist and all this other stuff. And in reality, they stole all of her work, corrupted it, and then in turn have labeled her as being a, this evil person. But anyway, The Astral Planet, Scenery, Inhabitants, and Phenomena. Supposedly this is supposed to be the best book ever written that describes what goes on and what is seen in the astral plane. And supposedly before this book was published, only black magicians had access to this knowledge, because a lot of the things that had been published before this were all, jargon and code and everything else. So I don't know. I thought that would make an interesting read. It sounded like something that would be interesting, so we'll get into that when we have time. My website where this broadcast originates from is www.theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. And up there you find all things pertaining to the work. You find the news stories that we cover here on a daily basis. Man Hydra gets that updated for us when he can. We have the Listen tab where you listen to the stream. There's always archives and stuff streaming on there 24 hours a day, and we always repeat the show the following day and right after the broadcast is over every night and morning. Archives up there, documentaries up there. You can buy Secret Right 2 up there, audiobooks up there, video clips from the show. The chat room's up there. You can join people in the chat room and hang out and talk and get into info and stuff. Contact tab if you want to contact me. I've always heard a lot of these different filmmakers and conspiracy types always talking about, YouTube censorship and YouTube coming after them for their information. And I've had a long-standing YouTube account, since like 2005 or 2006. I've had a director's account. So I got grandfathered in on that, so I'm able to post, longer videos. And I've noticed over the past year that I've been getting flagged for copyright stuff on some of my movies that I shouldn't be getting flagged for copyright stuff when there's a million other videos out there on YouTube that have unlicensed movie footage, unlicensed news footage, unlicensed music all day long, and their shit's not getting flagged. I even got flagged for something on one of my Reality of Illusion films for some music from some crap I've never even heard of, when all of the music in that film, the Sumerian Stargate one, was all original music. Even the song at the end, the song Sun in Your Sky, that was written by my sister, Jamie Reeves. And the rest of the music in there was all stuff I did on a synthesizer. I mean, what? Because some asshole used the same keyboard that I did? I got flagged for a copyright violation? I mean, give me a break. But I've noticed, I talked about this not too long ago, that I started noticing that some of my views were kind of wonky, and it didn't seem that I was getting as many views as I should have been getting, and I don't like to get up here and rant and rave about that and sound paranoid, but, I started seeing it happen a lot. Well, now I had put up The Secret Right Volume 2, Hour 1 back in November when I had completed that film, and it's been up there ever since, and we've had a whole bunch of views on it. And we haven't had any problems with it. The problem I had initially was a piece of footage in there that I bought and also used a fair use writ at the front of that film. And I guess NBC Universal took, they took offense to my exposing of people that were close to the Kennedy assassination and their involvement with NBC. Hell, there was one in there I didn't even get in there that concerns Jim Garrison, who the guy that Dances with Wolves portrayed in Oliver Stone's JFK movie. If you watch the JFK movie, you'll see a part in there, and that's actually a factual event that happened. I went and looked it up. NBC actually did a hit piece against Jim Garrison when he was taking Clay Shaw to trial. And then conveniently, the guy that got Clay Shaw off for any kind of wrongdoing in the Kennedy assassination was none other than Harry Connick, who also subsequently replaced Jim Garrison as the district attorney of New Orleans. And, again, there, lo and behold, there's Cheers, 20-something years later. There's Woody Harrelson. Charles Harrelson's son, one of the alleged shooters, by his own account, and also Harry Connick Jr., son of Harry Connick. So NBC Universal has now flagged a copyright violation for The Secret Right Volume 1, Hour 1, even though the only footage I have in there that belongs to them I licensed and paid for. So I'm done trying to do shit the legit way anymore. I'm just going to put everything I put out guerrilla style at this point. I've tried to go the proper routes to be able to get my work out there in a way that, abides by their rules so I can get it in there. But it's not doing me any good. Just like censoring my show and not saying what I wanted to say and not being able to talk about what I want to talk about. Just like that was that way when I was on radio networks, and everybody always tells you, just, play the game and don't talk about this and don't say what you want to say and censor yourself and don't cuss because we got to, get you out there we got to worry about the micro FMs. We got to worry about the broadcasters. And it never got me one bit of good. I'm going totally fucking rogue on this shit now, dude. I'm thinking of putting up a fucking micro FM broadcaster and just broadcasted my fucking show across Dallas 24 hours a day, uncensored, fuck them. Let them come shut me down. I'm tired of this. I mean, they don't even give you a goddamn permit for one of these micro FM broadcasters. I can't go buy a permit at any price because they don't give you a permit. So legally, you're not technically breaking the law because they don't offer a permit for a low-watt broadcaster like that. But I mean, it's ridiculous to me that and they censor, they do that. They waited this long because I've uploaded stuff to YouTube before that was copyrighted stuff. And what it does is when you upload something to YouTube, it has a scanner, and that's why it takes so long to process, because it processes your whole thing frame by frame, and it has this AI stuff that matches the content with other content that people have flagged as being their copyright. So it won't even let you get to the uploaded stage of having your film even, say, approved and up on YouTube unless it goes through and goes through this scan to catch it, and it will catch it. But they waited November, December, January, February, March, now it's almost April, 5 months after this film had been up there for 5 months, and they did the same thing to my Operation Haitiquake film. And I'm tired of this. I mean, and that's 3 they've done it to now. I don't know how many more I get before they cancel my whole account and I lose all my videos and everything I've got posted up there. I guess I'm going to have to start backing this stuff up now. I don't know what to do. I guess I'm going to have to find some cash somewhere. And well, I don't know where. We're way behind on our chipping banner for the month there. But to start a video, I guess I'm going to have to buy a video server and just have my own hosted Flash embedded players with all my videos up on a server somewhere and put them on my page or put them somewhere. I mean, I don't know what else to do. But it seems like there's a campaign going on by somebody who's drawing attention to my movies to look for things that, they can point out to find some way to make it not be able to be on YouTube. And that we seem to do that with whatever films I have that have the most damning information in it. In that first segment, that first hour of The Secret Right Volume 1, that's an important hour of the film. That can't just not be online. I mean, it's kind of made being able to get it up on Amazon and, Amazon, not Amazon, iTunes and Netflix, it's kind of made that even more important, That's just unbelievable because think about what's in that first hour. The stuff where I expose Hilder, the stuff where I expose all, the Revelo Oliver stuff, connecting to the white supremacist stuff. Look at all these connections to NBC within like the Truth Movement, Patriot Movement, the whole thing. I mean, my God, you've got Joe Rogan, who everybody thinks is the new Timothy Leary or something, and he's, he does a show on NBC, and you see him hanging out with Alex Jones and people like that. And it's one big cabal, and these guys I know have got their spooks and their little infiltrators inside of, the Truth Movement stuff, watching people like me and people that are talking about the CMP and exposing the deeper elements, looking for this stuff so they can flag us. There's no way. And not only that, I licensed that footage. I bought the rights to use that piece of footage. They don't care about that. That's one thing they don't care about. So I follow the rules there. They don't want to follow the rules. You're supposed to follow the rules. You and I have to, but they don't have to 1 iota. What's good for the goose ain't good for the gander. So they don't want to do it that way. Fair use, fuck fair use. Fair use is only good if we can use your stuff on like NBC News or something and not have to give you one piece of credit or, pay you 1 red cent. Yeah, then that's fair use. It's fair use for us to use your shit all day long, but it's not fair use for you to use our shit in any way, shape, or form, even if you buy the rights and even if you use fair use and you do everything by the numbers. It's still not your right to use our stuff because, we don't want you showing people our shortcomings. We don't want you showing people where we fell short and what we left out in their information. See, that's why they do these. That's why they hate alternative media, and they hate those of us out here who are looking at this stuff every day, and hate those of us who are actually paying attention to what these ass clowns are doing. Especially those of us that are just, data hoarders. We just fucking hoard data. Every little thing, and, every time they say something about the agenda, we got it fucking recorded, and everybody else just goes down the memory hole, and that's what they want. Like, do you guys remember, you guys ever seen the video? I remember but when it happened, when the fucking Jim Cramer, the Mad Money guy, had that fucking crazy meltdown, like his mind control programming broke down for a minute. He was sitting there I swear to God, if you haven't seen his clip, go look it up. He's just sitting there talking about the finances or something. He's talking to like two other people. And he says, and the finances and the money and sell, and the gold's going up and through the roof. And, the Bavarian Illuminati, the Queen of England, and the CIA are not all bad. And then he kind of looks at it like, well, what the fuck? Where did that come from? And then he just keeps on going like nothing happened. And he blurts out this thing about Bavarian Illuminati. I can't remember exactly what he said. Bavarian Illuminati, Queen of England, and something else. I mean, it was just one of the most odd, insane clip that you've ever seen. But something like that just goes down the memory hole of your average people. I mean, that was clearly a breakdown of his mental programming. There's just no question. Because even you could even see him in the clip. He's just like, he's like, what? Did I just say that? Like it didn't come from him. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. But all this stuff goes down the memory hole, and people don't remember it. And then we dredge up some clip, from a news clip from 30 years ago, or maybe 6 months ago. But even 6 months ago, they expect stuff to go down the memory hole. But see, what happens is more things happen since one of these news clips comes out, and more things occur, and we get more information. And then the next thing you know, a news clip from 6 months ago or 6 years ago, or however long, now has more importance, now has more weight, because you have all these other facts to go along with it. So that's why it's been important for me to use news clips and to get this license footage and go in and show, because a lot of the clips that have been in the Secret Right Volume 1 and 2 have never been seen outside of their original broadcasts. And they like to keep it that way because, I mean, there's a clip in the Secret Right Volume 1 that just always blew me away from the day one that I saw it, because I'd never heard this. They said that they found in Oliver North's safe some kind of a plan that if it all went wrong, they just blame it on Israel. And that really kind of always set really strangely with me, that comment, because I'd never heard that. It kind of seemed like an important thing that, okay, well, if we start getting caught for this Iran-Contra thing, we'll just use Israel as a scapegoat and we'll be all good. And that sort of, hit a circle core with me as far as Oliver North being, big-time Council for National Policy guy, Fox News. You see him involved in the PSYOPs. You see him, in with the teabaggers, and the rest of that. And, it really just made me think there for a minute that that definitely had something, to do with it. It's just mind-boggling. And, oh, man, I forget what I was going to say. I hate when that happens. Anyway, I hate when that happens. I just lost my train of thought. That's what I get for having the chat room open. Bad. That's bad. I broke that habit for a long time, and just tonight, for some reason, I left the chat room up. So I looked up the chat room, saw somebody typing something, and I was like, oh, shit. And I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm trying out a new microphone tonight as well. Well, not a new microphone. It's one I've had for a long time. But I'm just trying out a different microphone tonight, trying to see how different things sound. I got an email from somebody last night that said the show was totally inaudible for them. But I listened back to it, and it was just fine for me. Everybody else in the chat room stuff said it was fine. So I don't know. But let me know if it sounds, if it doesn't sound bad or sounds distorted or anything else. Here tonight. It sounds pretty good on my end, so I'm assuming it sounds pretty good out there, so we'll go with it. We got a lot of news to get in here tonight. I don't think we have any emails, but again, we always love to have emails from you, Global Reality Show at gmail.com. That's Global Reality Show at gmail.com. And you can send those in there. I remember what I was talking about a minute ago. The whole thing with Oliver North and this plan and his safe. You know, they all got caught. They ran contra to blame it on Israel, and that just struck a chord with me as far as the whole, you know, the whole Jew stuff and the CMP and the Patriot Movement and the white supremacist stuff and how, you know, they have this whole genre of radio hosts and talk radio hosts and people on RBN and other networks that, you know, it's Jew this all day long, and the Jews are involved, and it's a Jewish conspiracy. So, yeah, that thing with Oliver North and his safe, that just really struck a strange chord with me and made me think if that was, you know, proof of what we already knew to be true, especially look at Oliver North, these Knights of Malta, as well. That's why he got away with everything that he got away with, because he's Knights of Malta. That's why Kissinger can never be brought to trial for anything, because when you're a Knight of Malta, you can operate in any territory and anywhere in the world free of any laws, because you were doing it in service of the Vatican and the Pope and the priest class and the whole deal. So that's, you know, I think that's a big indicator that these guys are the big part of the PSYOP, a big part. Well, I kind of proved that in Volume 2 as well, that a big part of this PSYOP is about not only justifying creating fear and getting a fear response out of people, but also, you know, inflating things that are real, but not really telling them who the real enemy is and getting to chase false enemies. I mean, that really hit me like a ton of bricks a couple of years ago about Alex Jones. I was falling asleep one night and I heard him say something about somebody was on TV talking about Osama bin Laden or something. And it just dawned on me that, you know, with Al-Qaeda or terrorism or, you know, aliens or whatever it may be, they get us always running from these shadowy enemies. You know, there's always some shadowy enemy hiding lurking in the background or hiding under our bed, you know, waiting to get us and jump on us and pounce on us at any time. You know, and so when I started looking at how the people like Alex Jones and people in the Truth Movement, conspiracy movement do the same thing by never really telling you who the real conspirators are, and by blaming it on this group, it's those shadowy bankers or those shadowy Bohemian Grove members or those shadowy Bilderberg Group members, you know, but never really who the real perpetrators are. Again, just getting you running and being scared of this shadowy enemy you can't ever put a face or a name to. All right. Let's see what we have here to get into tonight in the news. I was talking about this with some folks in the chat room last night. Strange sea creature on South Carolina coast ID'd as Atlantic sturgeon. Something strange washed ashore on Folly Beach in South Carolina this past weekend. The beast had some wondering if it was some sort of new species. Be not afraid, land dwellers, according to AOL's Pawn Nation. The freakishly large creature may look alien, but it's harmless. A veterinarian from a South Carolina aquarium identified the fish as a sturgeon. The Atlantic sturgeon can grow 15 liters. And I looked this up, and I went, wait a minute. I've seen what an Atlantic sturgeon looks like, even a big one. And, I mean, just go to Google Images and type in Atlantic sturgeon. And then look at that picture. Ain't no motherfucking Atlantic sturgeon look like that, dude. That's got hair on it and shit. Atlantic sturgeons do not look like that in any way, one iota whatsoever. So I don't know whether it's some, you know, strange creature they don't want to tell us exists, or what it is. Maybe it's some Montauk thing, maybe it's some genetic freak Fukushima fish. Oh, Fukushima fish, you make great sushi. Aha. I don't know, but just bizarre. I'm not buying that. A whole lot of I'm not buying that type of stories in the media lately, don't you think? What was the other one here that I had on that list? Oh, I didn't talk about this last night because I figured that it had been talked about ad nauseum by the mainstream media and every other kind of media there is before I had gotten around to my show last night. So I didn't really talk about it, but that was the submarine trip by James Cameron over the weekend, director James Cameron, and his trip to the Mariana Trench, like the second person to ever go down anywhere near that deep. And I saw pictures of when he was done, and he just, I thought that when he went down to nobody normally goes down that deep. My God. Our submarines go down 3,000 feet. This guy was like 57,000 feet or whatever it was, miles down there. But he just hops out of the submarine, just jumps out, comes out of the water and hops out of the submarine like nothing, like nothing. He just got out of the shower or something. And he's there talking about, wait a minute, don't you have to decompress? Don't you get the bends from the change in pressure? Like that, and I saw this report, Kate Winslet and James Cameron at Titanic 3D premiere. So he goes to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, comes out, doesn't have to be in a decompression chamber for weeks or days like most people do. And then within 2 days, he's in London at the premiere of Titanic in 3D, which, by the way, has the distinction of being the world's first ever 3D piece of shit. It is the world's first 3D piece of shit ever produced. James Cameron is a groundbreaking filmmaker, and he had to be the first to bring you a flaming pile of shit in 3D. And he did it. And he did it right after he got out of the mirror. I don't know. Something smells like a publicity stunt for this film to me. Because supposedly he said somewhere off the record in an interview that he got to see where the part of the Mariana Trench or something where they drug the Titanic. And so I just was wondering if this thing was some gigantic publicity stunt because I don't trust that guy as far as you can throw him, dude. He's been working all that Avatar stuff. He was working with DARPA funding for the past 10 years on 3D holographic projection technology and all this stuff. If we ever see a faked alien invasion, you can make sure at the end it'll say directed by James Cameron when they show the credits rolling in the sky from the space satellite projectors. There's just no question. But I don't know. There's something about this. Come on. There's no explanation. I went and looked. No explanation as to how he didn't have to be in a decompression chamber after coming. He just came right out of the water and hopped right out of his submarine, and there were people there taking pictures, waiting for the photo op. And that just goes against everything that you go read. The only thing I can think of is maybe there's advances in. Maybe they were mixing helium in with his oxygen on the way down or the way back up. Possibly, maybe he had a controlled ascent where his ascent was controlled on a time, so it pulled him up slowly, so his body had time to react to the compression. I don't know. It just kind of smells like a big publicity stunt for promoting a flaming pile of shit in 3D. God damn, what a terrible movie that was. And speaking of, I don't buy that. Something about this stinks to high heaven, too, and I can't put my finger on it either. We have the first meltdown of one of the Coney 2012 guys And now TMZ, the wonderful purveyors of all things Hollywood and all things journalistic, with the journalistic integrity of all the great news organizations out there, TMZ, first ones to be on the scene to tell you that somebody's dead. TMZ has obtained a clip now of Jedediah Jenkins, the director of ideology for the Invisible Children. And he talks about keeping $900,000 donation for himself. He's chugging vodka. The whole thing just looks staged and fake. It looks like it was done either under duress or under mind control or... The Marianas Trench is near Japan. Yeah. But watch that video if you haven't seen it. Something about that just looks fake to me. And it seems that they are doing what they like to do with all kinds of things where they poison the well for people, because from now on, a lot of people that bought into this Coney thing, in the future there might be real issues and real things they need to be involved with or should be getting involved with. But they're going to have that thing always in the back of their mind where they got burned by the Coney thing. And so in the future, you're going to have a lot of people that are not going to support real, actual causes that you need to be supported. And I think that's one of the many psyops of this thing. Speaking of psyops, with this this staged racial division thing they're trying to bring on civil war with the shooting of this black teenager in Florida, the wonderful CIA-controlled NRA. Now, because, there's been all the big flap about the hoodie and racial discrimination. I mean, come on. These guys, they just got nothing left. But anyway, of course, the NRA is completely ran by the CIA. Bob Barr's been a CIA agent for years. The NRA is now selling a concealed carry hooded sweatshirt. So it's a hoodie that has an extra pocket in it, so you can keep your concealed handgun in case you have to shoot any black teenagers on your way, doing your neighborhood watch. Never know when one of those pesky black teenagers is going to be running down the street. Of course, the kid was no angel, and, he looked to be a little thug anyway, and that's come out now, but still, we know what this is. It's being used and what it's being used for. But on the bright side of things, not all things seem to be bad with these drones. We've talked a lot about the drones, the unmanned drones, and the technocalypse that's occurring on the front of modern warfare. Well, something else on the front of modern warfare just had a shot across the bow, and that is the Munchies. Taco Copter aims to deliver tacos using unmanned drone helicopters. Now, this I can get on board with. You mean to tell me that I can have tacos delivered to my house from an unmanned drone? I'm down. Hey, look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's an unmanned drone helicopter shooting a taco from space down at you and your colleagues during lunchtime. The internet is going wild for Taco Copter. Perhaps the next great startup out of Silicon Valley, which boasts a business plan that combines four of the most prominent touchstones of modern America: tacos, helicopters, robots, and laziness. Indeed, the concept behind Taco Copter is very simple and very American. You order tacos on your smartphone and you beam in your GPS location information. Your order and your location are transmitted to an unmanned drone helicopter ground near the kitchen where the tacos are made. And the taco copter is then sent out with your food to find you and deliver your tacos to wherever you're standing. Oh, that's tits, man. You pay online so the tacos are simply dropped off. Man, these drones are so cheap now. There's going to be, dude, over the next year or two, there's going to be drones just everywhere, and you won't know what's a drone surveilling you or what's a drone bringing you an ounce of weed from Jose down on the corner. I mean, dope peddlers are going to be using these fucking drones soon to drop off dime bags. They are. If they're dropping off tacos with drones, dime bags and Coke rocks are right around the corner. I mean, this is just unbelievable. I don't know whether to be mad or to be happy about this. You know what I mean? I mean, I really don't. I don't know whether to be upset or to be thankful for this. I'm right, right in the middle. I don't know. Brilliant, right? You're probably ready to order a sack full of fish tacos to be delivered to you by semi-autonomous flying robots as we speak. Well, put down your smartphones because here comes some bad news. The launch of Taco Copter, which is totally real, by the way, despite some doubters and has been around since July 2011, is being blocked by the U.S. government. Go figure. How did I know that was coming? Finally, something cool with this technology, you know? Tacos being delivered to your ass from a fucking drone. I'm down. Who comes in and spoils the party? As usual, the U.S. government. Wah, wah.
Surgeon Scott.
Huffington Post spoke with Star Simpson, one of Taco Copter's 3 co-founders, along with Dustin Boyer and Scott Torberg, who said that one of the main obstacles to getting Taco Copter off the ground is indeed the government. Alert the Tea Party, or perhaps the Taco Party. Current U.S. FAA regulations prevent using unmanned aerial vehicles like drones for commercial purposes at the moment. Oh, but they could see. I knew that was good. You know, they could use these motherfuckers and fly them around everywhere to surveil everything with no warrant, with no kind of anything. But as soon as somebody starts getting creative and using it for something, you know, to make a little money with, oh, no, can't do that, because we can't regulate it and tax it, so, and we didn't think of it, so we're just going to say it's illegal, and then we're going to get our companies to implement it, and once our companies implement it across the board and we steal your idea, then we'll make it legal, and by then every company will have it. You will no longer have a unique business model. Thank you very much. That is the American dream right there in a nutshell. Honestly, I don't think it's totally unreasonable to regulate something as potentially dangerous as having flying robots slinging tacos all over people's heads. On the other hand, that's a little bit ironic that that's the case in a country where you can be killed by a drone with no judicial review. Simpson told Huffington Post that because of FAA regulations as well as other minor problems, like navigating the treacherous terrain of an urban environment, keeping the food warm, finding a city map precise enough to avoid crashes 100% of the time, avoiding birds, balconies, and telephone wires, delivering food to people indoors, delivering food to the right person, dealing with greedy humans who would just steal the taco copter as soon as it got to them. The Taco Copter website exists more as a conversation starter about the future of food delivery and delivery in general, as well as about the commercial use of unmanned drones in the actual startup plan of business. I think you're going to see this as a reality. I mean, you can buy these drones now. You're not supposed to. That's what it is. You can buy them for $200 or $300. You can control it with your iPhone, your iPad, whatever. Motherfucking Taco Copter. That is just too funny. I've been asking that question for the past 10 years, John. Where the fuck is my flying car? I was promised. I told me it's the 3rd grade we was going to have them hoes by 2001. Still no dice. It's funny, we're in 2012, and you know that they've been keeping us in a state of arrested development for a very long time because, even scholarly predictions of technology 20, 30 years ago was putting us well past where we are now. But the problem is that technology that was promised to us in the future is here in the future, but it's not being given to us. It's being held in secret by them so they can use it for their continuation of their agenda. Deepwater Horizon oil spill contaminated ocean's food chain finds study from the International Business Times. A recent study has confirmed that toxic compounds derived from oil that was released in the Deepwater Horizon spill that occurred in the Gulf of Mexico nearly 2 years ago has entered the ocean's food chain through microorganisms. That's wonderful. That corrected stuff that, changes your DNA. And I said from the get-go that I felt that there was something in here that it was probably the medical industrial complex that caused this oil spill, not the big oil companies or anything else. So they can get something, a foreign, whatever it may be, to enter our food chain that most of us will take in, so it will change our DNA. A recent study has confirmed that toxic compounds derived from the oil that was released in the Deepwater Horizon spill that occurred in the Gulf of Mexico nearly 2 years ago has entered the ocean's food chain through microorganisms. The study, funded by the National Science Foundation and led by a team of researchers from East Carolina University, the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, Oregon State University, Georgia Institute of Technology, and the U.S. Geological Survey, detected chemical compounds found in oil called hydrocarbons, some known to be carcinogenic within the bodies of microscopic crustaceans called zooplankton. Our research helped to determine a fingerprint of the Deepwater Horizon spill. We're sorry. You ever seen that South Park? Tony Hayward, we're sorry. He's like laying on a fucking bearskin rug, bare-assed. We're sorry. There's a little gay apology for the spill. Zooplankton form the base of the ocean's food web and are typically fed upon by fish larvae and smaller crustaceans, said Dr. David Kimmel of the East Carolina University. Whether or not these larger organisms have accumulated significant amounts of toxic compounds or has entered the human food chain has yet to be determined. Well, they just said it has entered the food chain. It's entered. They just said, well, we don't know if it has, but it has. Israeli spies step up missions of Iran seeking proof of nuclear plans. The Sunday Times reports Israeli special forces clad in Iranian uniforms infiltrate regularly from base in northern Iraq. So they're admitting now that, yes, special forces of Israel and Mossad are infiltrating Iran right now to make it appear and setting them up for a false flag. I mean, they're admitting it. So look for something to happen probably this year, some kind of event, and it's going to be, we'll know when it happens, that like they're telling us here. Israeli Mossad and their special forces were behind it. Was the resurrection an optical illusion on the Turin Shroud? Cambridge academics' explosive new theory about the controversial relic. A sensational new theory about the Turin Shroud claims to destroy the core belief of Christianity that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Art historian Thomas DeWeslow is convinced the shroud is real and did touch Christ's body. But the Cambridge academic insists that the image on the cloth fooled the apostles into believing Christ had come back to life, and the resurrection was in fact an optical illusion. If this is true, this radically reshapes the version of the events which led to the birth of Christianity as a world religion, now followed by more than 2 billion people. His theory is that in the mind of a person 2,000 years ago, the image on the shroud would have been astonishing, far beyond their normal experiences and truly unsettling. Well, they came out with this new information a couple of months ago. We talked about here about how it appears that it was some kind of imaging technology, some kind of high advanced technology was used so they could imprint like a photograph. Because you can see the horns and everything. It looks. It's just interesting to me that it makes sense after reading some of these ancient texts and stuff that, this was the body of some half human, half alien, and using alien technology, they wanted to preserve an image of him, so that people in the future who wouldn't believe that he existed could see and understand that whoever was around in the time of Jesus had high technology. But see, that's overlooked, and we're not allowed to even think that that's possible. Oh, no, they couldn't have had technology to do that. But, look at that picture that I dropped in the chat room there. Look, it looks like a fucking alien. He's got horns and shit. So it's interesting. This is coming just on the heels of this more recent discovery that was in the news just a few months ago that we covered here about, it was some kind of technology that burned the image there. Another bizarre event happened today on a JetBlue plane. This really reeked of either mind control or a possible 9/11 type event that they aborted, or they had set up to possibly pull off and happen, and then aborted it because there was too much of a risk they were going to get exposed. But this thing reeks to high heaven. A JetBlue flight captain went berserk mid-flight today and had to be restrained by passengers as the plane made an emergency landing. Clayton Frederick Osborne, 49, repeatedly screamed, "Say your prayers, say your prayers," at horrified passengers after running up and down the aisle, shouting, "Iraq, Al-Qaeda, terrorism, we're all going down. Iraq, Al-Qaeda, terrorism, we're all going down. Iraq, Al-Qaeda, terrorism, we're all going down." I mean, what the hell? Who does that? The captain of Flight 191 from JFK to Las Vegas went crazy, passengers said, after he went to the toilet and returned to find that he had been locked out of the cockpit by his co-pilot, who had concerns about his behavior. Osborne has been a JetBlue captain for 12 years, but has been around planes for about 30 years. Passengers told local media that about 3 hours into the flight, the captain had behaved oddly after going to the toilet, randomly talking with passengers on his way back to the cockpit. When he went back to the cockpit and realized he had been locked out, a passenger said Osborne, a married father of one from Savannah, Georgia, began screaming, "Let me in," and acting radically. Tony Antolino, a 40-year-old executive from a security firm, said the captain walked to the back of the plane, but he seemed disoriented and agitated, then began yelling about an unspecified threat linked to Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Now, that's what's interesting to me. He's talking about some, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and there's some threat. They're going to take us down. They're going to take us down. They're going to take us down. Say the Lord's Prayer. Say the Lord's Prayer, the captain screamed. Antolino, who said he sat in the 10th row, said he and 3 others tackled the captain as he ran for the cockpit door. The passengers pinned him and held him down while the plane landed at Rick Husband Amarillo International Airport. "That's how we landed," he said. "There were 4 of us on top of him. Everybody else kind of took a seat, and that's how we landed." Osborne said Osborne had been married to his wife, Connie, since 2005. Connie Osborne, speaking to ABC News, warned that there might be more to what happened aboard the flight. She told the network there are just several different sides to every story. Just keep that in mind. She said that she had not yet spoken with her husband and had no idea what's going on. An off-duty airline captain who just happened to be a passenger on the flight went to the flight deck and took over the duties of the ill captain once on the ground. The airline said, "Now that to me is a red flag." An off-duty airline captain who just happened to be a passenger on the flight went to the flight deck and took over the duties of the ill captain once on the ground, the airline said. So he just happened to have another pilot, spare pilot, waiting there in the wings to take over after this guy flipped out. Something about this stinks. I mean, it could have been possible this guy was programmed as a suicide pilot or something, and his will was too strong and broke through. But I definitely think there's something fishy to all this. I think that's what it was. I think they probably programmed him to be a suicide pilot and fly that plane into something. And, the human will is something you just can't always predict what it's going to be, what it's going to do. And it sounds like this guy's will and who he really is was stronger than their programming, and he just flipped and lost it and said, we got to get out of here or they're going to kill us all, my God. Because he knew that something was about to happen, and then they quieted him down, made it look like he was a nut, because they didn't want to expose, they were too overexposed to let anything go down at that point. That's just crazy shit. They are ramping up this asteroid stuff again, as we talked about a million times. Don't want to close my eyes. We got to get Bruce Willis on the horn, man. I'm telling you. They're already ramping up the space-based weapon stuff, just as predicted, just as they're following the script. Formation of high-speed laser-armed fighter satellites in development. Could they be our best hope against asteroids? Squadron of laser satellites would chip away at large asteroids. Previous research focused on large craft with equally large lasers. Could a swarm of formation-flying satellite drones defend against Earth against asteroids? Until now, research into an asteroid shield for our planet has focused on huge satellites carrying equally vast weapons. But Strathclyde researchers think that smaller fighter satellites could work together to destroy a huge asteroid and are researching a squadron of laser satellites to do the job. Dr. Massimiliano Vasili of Strathclyde's Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering is leading the research. He said the approach we are developing would involve sending small satellites capable of flying in formation with the asteroid and firing their lasers at the asteroid at close range. The use of high-power lasers in space for civil and commercial applications is in its infancy, right? And one of the main challenges is to have high power, high efficiency, and high beam quality all at the same time. The additional problem with asteroid deflection is that when lasers begin to break down the surface of an object, the plume of gas and debris impinges the spacecraft and contaminates the laser. However, our laboratory tests have proven that the level of contamination is less than expected and the laser could continue to function for longer than anticipated. A swarm of relatively small satellites flying in formation and cooperatively firing solar-powered lasers into an asteroid would overcome the difficulties associated with current methods that are focused on large, unwieldy spacecraft. Just over 100 years ago, a 2,000-kilometer area of vegetation which was destroyed when an object believed to be 30 to 50 meters in diameter exploded in the skies above Tunguska, Siberia. Dr. Vasali said that the Tunguska class of events are expected to occur within a few centuries. Smaller asteroids collide with Earth more frequently and generally burn in the atmosphere, although some of them reach the ground or explode at low altitude, potentially causing damage to buildings and people. We could reduce the threat posed by the potential collision with small to medium-sized objects using a flotilla of small, agile spacecraft, each equipped with a highly efficient laser, which is much more feasible than a single large spacecraft carrying a multi-megawatt. Our system is a scalable. Large asteroid would require adding one or more spacecraft to the flotilla and intrinsically redundant. If one spacecraft falls, the others can continue. Dr. Vasali is now investigating the use of the same concept to remove space debris. I think about that, a fighter storm. I mean, this is for fighting, multiple targets. This is for the space war, isn't it? And remember, that's what they're going to use to sell us on the stuff to get the things for the space war up there, the threat of asteroids. Comets linked to the beginnings of life. Scientists say shock waves from space rocks bombarding the Earth bonded vital amino acids together. Shock waves from comets bombarding the Earth may have helped to build proteins and set the stage for life, scientists have learned. Comets' giant snowballs of ice and dust are known to have carried out organic chemicals in water to the early Earth. Well, just what caused life to spring out of nowhere on a barren and desolate planet billions of years ago remains a mystery. Now scientists may have part of the answer. Laboratory experiments have shown that amino acids, organic molecules that are the building blocks of proteins, would have survived violent comet impacts. What is more, the shock of a large comet impact would have provided the energy needed to start bonding amino acids together to make proteins. Proteins provide the raw material that allows all living things, from microbes to humans, to exist and function. Their creation by comets may explain how life appeared so quickly at the end of a period 3.8 billion years ago called the Late Heavy Bombardment. During this turbulent time, the Earth was showered by both comets and rocky asteroids, leaving crater scars that are still seen on the moon. More on that in just a bit. Dr. Jennifer Blank, who led the U.S. scientists from the NASA Ames Research Center in Moffett Field, California, said, "Our research shows that the building blocks of life could indeed have remained intact despite the tremendous shock wave and other violent conditions in a comet impact. Comets really would have been the ideal packages for delivering ingredients for the chemical evolution thought to have resulted in life. We like the comet delivery scenario because it includes all the ingredients for life, amino acids, water, and energy." So now they're back to the comet theory again, which I think is still like an offshoot of panspermia, right? So how did the moon get there? This is another article here from the Daily Mail. Rocks from the lunar surface show no traces of the ancient rock impact meant to have created it. A huge space rock called Theia smashed into our planet more than 4 billion years ago, knocking a clump of material into space, creating the moon. At least that's the theory. There's just one problem. There's no evidence that Theia was there at all. A new study has found no trace of Theia in the rocks from the moon, leaving scientists to puzzle over how our satellite got there without a Mars-sized object slamming into the young Earth. A giant impact between the proto-Earth and a Mars-sized object named Theia is the favored scenario for the formation of the moon, says Junjun Chang of the University of Illinois at Chicago. But if a huge object had slammed into Earth and the moon is just debris of that collision, traces of Theia should remain there. Up to 40% of the satellite should be made of Theia. But Chang's measurements found that titanium on the moon was exactly the same as the metal present on Earth, identical to within 4 parts per million. In meteorites, the ratio is hugely different. This suggests that lunar material was derived from the proto-Earth mantle. If moon rocks come from Earth, scientists now have to puzzle over how the moon separated from our planet, with theories including a rapid spinning Earth which hurled rock into space, or a Theia-style impact with a huge comet made of ice which then evaporated. Didn't the Anunnaki say that they had it was something about, Tiamat and all that stuff? Tiamat was like a water planet and it was destroyed, and the rest of the pieces became our moon and the asteroid belt and all that stuff. We're going to take a break and come back and get into more news. Finish up with our news tonight. We may get into our reading tonight, may not. I don't know. We'll just have to see how much time we have till we get back from this quick break. Again, this is our fundraising week. We have the chip-in banners there up for the bills of the month. And please help us reach our goal by Friday so we can pay the bills for the month and stay alive. We also have the chip-in banner there for a rock wall film. And for that story we had yesterday, that's definitely become even more important than it already is now, and I'm just continuing to work on this, and I'm just so excited about this project, I can't tell you. But anyway, all right, back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us here tonight for another late-night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. We got more news and more stuff coming up in this segment of the show tonight, so thanks so much for being here with us. My website, where this broadcast originates from, is theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. Everything pertaining to my work is up there. You can buy Blu-ray and DVD copies of my newest film, Seabright Volume 2, which exposes the Council for National Policy, the phony patriots, Alex Jones, the Jesuits, the whole deal, the origins of the truth movement, the conspiracy genre, and how that ties in. It's important information, and I'm not going to stop trying to get it out there, and I still believe in the film and the information, and it's still fairly new, so it's something I'm going to continue to try to get out there in any way I possibly can, while still, working on newer projects and the next round of things I got to get done. I mean, this rock wall thing, It just keeps, more stuff just keeps on appearing. And now, I mean, they're definitely scared now trying to build this $5 billion bullshit park. So people will shut up and quit asking, well, here's your wall, shut up, quit asking questions about it. No, I'm going to throw a wrench all up in their works. But I'm going to be traveling in a couple of weeks to go and get cover some different, I mean, apparently there was a civilization that the rock wall was a part of that stretched throughout the South. Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, all through the Appalachians. I mean, they have found artifacts all up through the Appalachians of an ancient Native American tribe, that many of them that worshipped a feathered serpent. The feathered serpent being Quetzalcoatl or Thoth, or however you want to say it. All up and down the Appalachians. And so with that combined with the Quetzalcoatl artwork that's been found near the rock wall, the resonant frequencies, the guide stones being very close to a lot of these monuments. I mean, this is what I'm going to be showing here in this film, is that there was a people here with a history that, for whatever reason, they want to remain hidden. Because it will bring crumbling down the facade of their phony reality that they've built up around us. And God damn it, I'm going to bring it crashing down. I need people out there that believe in this as much as I do to help us out. So please do so if you can. Thanks to those who have. Let's finish up with our news tonight. This is very interesting, and at first I thought this may have had something to do with those space-based weapons and asteroid detection and asteroid defensive capabilities, but now actually, after reading the article, I think it actually had something to do with chemtrails and weather modification, because we know one of the key elements of weather modification that they've been doing over the past several decades has been manipulating the jet stream. That's the big thing they've done, and that's why the geoengineering stuff that they try to sell us on for phony climate change, that's how we know all that's a fraud, because it's already been going on for a great amount of years. NASA has launched 5 rockets into space that will measure the jet stream by releasing chemical clouds into the atmosphere. You guys need to see this as I'm reading it, just to see the pictures, because it's insane. So they launch these rockets that release these chem clouds so they can measure the jet stream that they've been manipulating for quite some time now. NASA has launched 5 rockets into space that will measure the jet stream by releasing chemical clouds into the atmosphere. Blasting off from a facility in Virginia, the rockets began their ascent into space early this morning from NASA's Space Center on Wallops Island. All 5 rockets were launched in a 5-minute span, deploying 8 seconds apart from one another. The launches have been delayed several times because of bad weather and wind concerns. Each of the 5 rockets will help scientists study high-altitude jet streams that have been measured at speeds of up to 400 kilometers an hour. Following the launch, each of the 5 rockets released chemical milky white tracers into the jet stream more than 60 miles above the Earth. The tracer, called trimethyl aluminum, there you go, weather modification chemical, trimethyl aluminum, hello, forms white clouds that allow scientists to see the wind patterns. They are illuminated by the rays of the sun despite being below local horizons, Space.com reported. According to NASA, residents along the East Coast as far north as Massachusetts and as far south as North Carolina reported seeing streaks in the sky, in the night sky. The experiment, officially called Anomalous Transport Rocket Experiment. Anomalous Transport Rocket Experiment? Now, wait a minute. I get that it's a rocket experiment. I get that part of it. But what does anomalous transport? Now, anomalous means it's something that's an anomaly, something that's unusual, something that is not the norm. And what is transport? Well, transport can be either the act of transporting something from one place to another, or a delivery method of transport itself, like a cab is a form of transport, right? A bike is a form of transport. Anomalous transport, rocket experiment, as if there's, so what does that tell us? That we have something anomalous, an anomaly that's unusually transporting itself, and we have to have a rocket experiment for that? What does that have to do with the jet stream? This is like, this shit is like missile command stuff, dude. This is like total space-based, ground-based space warfare. Are they going to launch the goddamn phony alien invasion sooner than we thought? Look at that picture I just dropped in the chat room. That's fucking missile command. That's something more than just testing the jet stream. That's aiming at stuff, being able to hit strategic targets from the ground. Let's see what else we have. A small Illinois museum is being threatened with a lawsuit after it was revealed to be the home of the Lee Harvey Oswald tombstone, the sniper who assassinated President John F. Kennedy in 1963. That's right. If you go out to that cemetery today, it just has a little stone that says Oswald on it. I've been out there before. Stevie Ray Vaughan's buried in the same cemetery. It is cropped up at Wayne Lansing's Historic Auto Attractions Museum in Roscoe, among other historical artifacts, including Elvis Presley's 1972 Lincoln, the Mayberry squad car from the Andy Griffith Show, and 3 Batmobiles. To the unwitting visitor, the tombstone fits right into the quirky museum around the corner from Richard Petty's 1960 stock car, and a few steps from a Cadillac covered in 120,000 coins. But the story of the 130-pound granite slab is shrouded in mystery. The circumstances surrounding how exactly the Historic Auto Attractions Museum in Roscoe got hold of the stone are explained, and now a Texas club owner is threatening legal action to get it back. Oswald's tombstone was stolen by teenage pranksters 4 years after his death in 1963. Authorities later returned it to Oswald's mother, Marguerite, but afraid it would be stolen again, she did not return it to his grave. Instead, she hid it in a crawl space of her Fort Worth home. After her death in 1981, the house was bought by the Card family, and 4 years later, the tombstone was found by an electrician rooting around the crawl space. Realizing what it was and fearful someone might steal it, the family moved the stone to the home of Mrs. Card's sister, who later sent it to her son, Johnny Reagan. When he died in 2008, the tombstone was left in the hands of Reagan's wife, Holly. Card's son, David, is threatening legal action to reclaim the stone, he said. They screwed us out of it, and I want it back. But the 64-year-old Lansing maintains that Johnny Reagan's will left it in his wife's possession, thus rendering Card's claim redundant. I just love how something, it's stolen. Like it always seems strange that there was more to that story than we were being told. I wonder why they're bringing it up now. I dropped this in the chat room earlier. My God, this guy is huge. At 7'8", America's tallest man, Igor Vogovinsky of Rochester, Minnesota, has a few very large problems on his hands. But the biggest one involves his feet. The record-breaking giant is down to his final pair of shoes and in desperate need of some new footwear. All he has left is a pair of old clogs, which he's been wearing them for so long there's virtually no support or grip left in them. And this guy, he's a giant. This is definitely a case of the recessive Anunnaki gene coming out in, being dormant and coming out very often. Look at that guy. Look at the guy on the right. The guy on the right shot the sperm of the guy on the left out of his penis. Think about that. Jesus Christ. Look how proud Dad is holding those gigantic shoes. He's like, guess what? My penis is as large as that shoe is. That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's just insane. Did Europeans move to Africa to weather out ice ages? Uh-oh. Does this mean that the blacks really run the whole show, as that troll last night seemed to think? The blacks really run everything. You're lying. New DNA studies suggest people moved between continents before recorded history. People moved between Africa and Europe long before recorded history, and the migrations might have been driven by Europeans moving south to weather ice ages. The genetic trace of long-forgotten migrations from Africa to Europe live on in Europeans today. A third of the genetic traces of sub-Saharan lineages in today's Europe come from prehistory. Researchers think that Europeans pushed south by glaciers might have met with populations from sub-Saharan Africa. People moved between the continents as early as 11,000 years ago. Geneticists used mitochondrial DNA to look for traces of the ancient migrations. Mitochondrial DNA is passed directly from mother to child, with no DNA from the father, and tiny changes in the sequence come to characterize different populations, which can be used to trace movements and migrations of groups of humans in the past. Large numbers of people moved between Africa and Europe during recent and well-documented time periods, such as the Roman Empire, the Arab conquest, and the slave trade, but the researchers found that a third of sub-Saharan lineages came from before those movements. More and more stuff, more unanswered questions. I can't believe people are surprised by this. This is something I thought everybody's known for years, especially since they started putting those little metal strips in currency. I mean, I thought everybody has known for years that anytime you go through a metal detector with currency, they can tell how much money you have. Now they're trying to act like this is somehow breaking news. I mean, it's just ridiculous. A new discovery about metal detectors will eventually enable police to count the cash in your pockets and potentially fight crime by sniffing out stacks of hidden bills. Bullshit. They can do this now. They've been doing it for years. They just don't want to alert people and get everybody freaking out about it. They've done this for years. They've been doing this for years in airports. Anytime you go through anywhere, especially where law enforcement is involved and there's a metal detector, your cash in your pocket is counted. Two physicists found the handheld metal detectors are able to pick up signals from the magnetic ink used in the American cash. Oh, the strip inside of it has nothing to do with it. Okay. When more than one bill is stacked up on top of another, the strength of the magnetic field increased as well. What this means is that the technology could theoretically be used over luggage to see if there are stacks of cash hidden by smugglers. While it may seem like a trick out of a spy movie, the technology is not quite perfected yet, as there is no way of using the metal detector alone to place an exact dollar amount on the cash it finds. Oh, this is horseshit. Total horseshit. They've been counting your money for years in your pocket. And now they're trying to act like, oh, this is somewhere coming down the road. No. As soon as they started putting those little metal strips in your money, they've been able to tell how much you have no matter where you go if there's a metal detector. That's a fact, but they don't want to get everybody in a tizzy and everybody freaking out about it, so they've kept it quiet. Hey, if you're like me, you've always wanted to own your own submarine, right? I mean, so fuck James Cameron. Us poor folks want to go submerge, in local lakes and look for ancient artifacts and, fuck with people. While James Cameron was traveling to the deepest part of the ocean in a multi-million-dollar custom-built submarine in China, a very different type of undersea vehicle was taking place. Oh, my God. So this guy's a Chinese man is building a submarines in his basement for $31,000 a piece. I don't know about you, but the old phrase, you get what you pay for, that definitely applies to China in most cases. I've talked about the Chinese guitar thing with Gibson before, about how they exploit I don't know what it is, the 40% rule, or whatever percent it is. If a certain amount of their percentage of their corporate activity takes place in America, then they can have all of their labor, most of their labor done in China, have everything, all their bodies and parts made in China, and still be able to stamp made in the USA on the back of it because their corporate activity for the most part is in the United States. So they can have the stuff, cut and built anywhere, and then they ship the parts, the pickups, and the bodies over to the United States, and then Gibson puts them together in their Gibson plant and puts them up on the shelf. And, you can buy them out the back door for, $300 or $400, $500, $600, $800, $1,000. And you can get these ones that are made in China. They're the same as the ones you go to Guitar Center and pay $10,000 for. But, I don't know. For me, I think a $31,000 submarine from China, I don't know if that's a safe bet. Shanghai 37 of Haiyang in central China's Hubei province has begun building do-it-yourself mini submarines. Pictures and video of his strange low-tech do-it-yourself creation now become an internet hit. The textile factory worker began making his first submarine after being made redundant. He now hopes his submarine business will take off. The submarines are built in Zhang's makeshift workshop in a disused building, and he told a Chinese newspaper he already has 3 orders for the subs, which cost around $31,000 to make. The mini submarine has enough room for 2 people, and it can dive up to 30 meters, traveling at 20 kilometers an hour for 10 hours. It has oxygen tanks, video cameras, and wrought iron walls. Each one takes a month to build, and Zhang now employs 10 people. He described his design as small and simple and hopes local fishermen will buy them. That's awesome. Maybe they are kick-ass. I mean, good on him for taking it on himself and getting fired from his slave job. We call it slave jobs over here. If you have a day job, you call it a slave job. That's just the slang. But literally, if you're in China, that literally is your slave job. Well, that's all we got for the news tonight. So we can start a little bit of our new series of reading here for you this evening, tonight, this morning, whatever fucking time it is now, right? Who cares? Time is only an illusion, right? Okay, The Astral Plane, Its Scenery, Inhabitants, and Phenomena by C.W. Ledbetter. Few words are needed in sending this little book out into the world. It is the 5th of a series of manuals designed to meet the public demand for a simple exposition of theosophical teachings. Some have complained that our literature is at once too abstruse, too technical, and too expensive for the ordinary reader. And it is our hope that the present series may succeed in supplying what is a very real want. Theosophy is not only for the learned, it is for all. Perhaps among those who in these little books catch their first glimpse of its teachings, there may be a few who will be led by them to penetrate more deeply into its philosophy, its science, and its religion, facing its obtruser problems with the student's zeal and the neophyte's ardor. But these manuals are not written for the eager student whom no initial difficulties can daunt. They are written for the busy men and women of the workaday world and seek to make plain some of the great truths that render life easier to bear and death easier to face. Written by servants of the masters, who are the elder brothers of our race, they can have no other object than to serve our fellow men. Reference to the astral plane, or Kamaloka, as it is called in Sanskrit, has frequently been made by theosophical writers. And a good deal of information on the subject of this realm of nature is to be found scattered here and there in our books, but there is not, so far as I'm aware, any single volume to which you can turn for a complete summary of the facts at present known to us about this interesting region. The object of this manual is to collect and make some attempts to arrange this scattered information, and also to supplement it slightly in cases where new facts have come to our knowledge. It must be understood that any such additions are only the result of the investigations of a few explorers, and must not therefore be taken as in any way authoritative, but are given simply for what they are worth. On the other hand, every precaution in our power has been taken to ensure accuracy. No fact, old or new, being admitted to this manual unless it has been confirmed by the testimony of at least 2 independent trained investigators among ourselves, and has also been passed as correct by older students whose knowledge on these points is necessarily much greater than ours. It is hoped, therefore, that this account of the astral plane, though it cannot be considered as quite complete, may yet be found reliable as far as it goes. The first point, which is necessary to make clear in describing the astral plane, is its absolute reality. Of course, in using that word, I am not speaking from that metaphysical standpoint from which all but the one unmanifested is unreal because impermanent. I am using the word in its plain everyday use, and I mean by it that the objects and inhabitants of the astral plane are real in exactly the same way as our own bodies. Our furniture, our houses, our monuments are real as Charing Cross, to quote an expressive remark from one of the earliest theosophical works. They will no more endure forever than will objects on the physical plane, but they are nevertheless realities from our point of view while they last. Realities which we cannot afford to ignore merely because the majority of mankind is as yet unconscious or but vaguely conscious of their existence. There appears to be considerable misunderstanding, even among theosophical students, upon this question of the reality of the various planes of the universe. This may perhaps be partly due to the fact that the word plane has occasionally been very loosely used in our literature. Writers speaking vaguely of the mental plane, the moral plane, and so on, and this vagueness has led many people to suppose that the information on the subject, which is to be found in the theosophical books, is inexact and speculative, a mere hypothesis incapable of definite proof. No one can get a clear conception of the teachings of the wisdom religion until he has at any rate an intellectual grasp of the fact that in our solar system there exist perfectly definite planes, each with its own matter of different degrees of density, and that some of these planes can be visited and observed by persons who have qualified themselves for the work. Exactly as a foreign country might be visited and observed, and that by comparison of the observations of those who are constantly working on these planes, evidence can be obtained of their existence and nature at least as satisfactory as which most of us have for the existence of Greenland or Spitsbergen. The names usually given to these planes, taking them in order of materiality, rising from the denser to the finer, are the physical, the astral, the devacanic, the Shiputic, and the Nirvanic. Higher than this last are 2 others, but they are so far above our present power of conception that for the moment they may be left out of consideration. Now it should be understood that the matter of each of these planes differs from that of the one below it, in the same way as though to a much greater degree than vapor differs from solid matter. In fact, the states of matter, which we call solid, liquid, and gaseous, are merely the 3 lowest subdivisions of the matter belonging to this one physical plane. The astral region which I am to attempt to describe is the second of these great planes of nature, the next above or within that physical world which we are all familiar. It has often been called the realm of illusion, not that it is itself any more illusory than the physical world, but because of the extreme unreliability of the impressions brought back from it by the untrained seer. This is to be accounted for mainly by 2 remarkable characteristics of the astral world. First, that many of its inhabitants have a marvelous power of changing their forms with protean rapidity, shapeshifters, and also of casting practically unlimited glamour over those with whom they choose to sport, those they choose to hang out and be around with. Oh, yeah. So you hang out with the reptiles, you get all the glamour, right? And secondly, that sight on that plane is a faculty very different from and much more extended than physical vision, as the object is seen, as it were, from all sides at once, the inside of a solid being as plainly open to the view as the outside. It is therefore obvious that an inexperienced visitor to this new world may well find considerable difficulty in understanding what he really does see, and still more in translating his vision into the very inadequate language of ordinary speech. A good example of the sort of mistake that is likely to occur is the frequent reversal of any number which the seer has to read from the astral light, so that he would be liable to render, say, 139 as 931, and so on. In the case of a student of occultism trained by a capable master, such a mistake would be impossible, except through great hurry or carelessness. Since such a pupil has to go through a long and varied course of instruction in this art of seeing correctly, the master, or perhaps some more advanced pupil, bring before him again and again all possible forms of illusion and asking him, "What do you see?" Any errors in his answers are then corrected and the reasons explained until by degrees the neophyte acquires a certainty and a confidence in dealing with the phenomenon of the astral plane which far exceeds anything possible in the physical life. But he has to learn not only to see correctly, but to translate the memory of what he has seen accurately from one plane to the other. And to assist him in this, he is trained to carry his consciousness without break from the physical plane to the astral or devacanic plane and back again. For until that can be done, there is always a possibility that his recollections may be partially lost or distorted during the blank interval which separates his periods of consciousness on the various planes. When the power of bringing over the consciousness is perfectly acquired, the pupil will have the advantage of the use of all the astral faculties, not only while out of his body during sleep or trance, but also while fully awake in ordinary physical life. It has been the custom of some theosophists, to speak with scorn of the astral plane and treat it as entirely unworthy of attention. That seems to me a somewhat mistaken view. Most assuredly, that at which we have to aim is the purely spiritual plane, and it would be most disastrous for any student to neglect that higher development and rest satisfied with the attainment of astral consciousness. There are some whose karma is such as to enable them to develop the purely spiritual faculties first of all, to overleap the astral plane for the time, as it were, and when afterwards they make its acquaintance, they have, if their spiritual development has been perfect, the immense advantage of dipping into it from above with the aid of a spiritual insight which cannot be deceived and a spiritual strength which nothing can resist. It is, however, a mistake to suppose, as some writers have done, that this is the only or even the ordinary method adopted by the masters of wisdom with their pupils. Where it is possible, it saves much trouble, but for the most of us, such progress by leaps and bounds has been forbidden by our own faults and follies in the past. All that we can hope for is to win our way slowly, step by step. And since this astral plane lies next to our world of denser matter, it is usually in connection with it that our earliest superphysical experiences take place. It is therefore by no means without interest to those of us who are but beginners in these studies, and a clear comprehension of its mysteries may often be of the greatest importance. To us, not only by enabling us to understand many of the phenomena of the seance room or haunted houses, etc., which would otherwise be inexplicable, but also to guard ourselves and others from other possible danger. The first introduction to this remarkable region comes to people in various ways. Some only once in their whole lives under some unusual influence become sensitive enough to recognize the presence of one of its inhabitants, and perhaps because the experience does not repeat itself, come in time to believe that on that occasion they must have been the victims of hallucination. Others find themselves with increasing frequency seeing and hearing something to which those around them are blind and deaf. Others again, and perhaps this is the commonest experience of all, begin to recollect with greater and greater clearness that which they have seen or heard on that other plane during sleep. Among those who make a study of these subjects, some try to develop the astral sight by crystal gazing or other methods, while those who have the inestimable advantage of the direct guidance of a qualified teacher will probably be placed upon that plane for the first time under his special protection, which will be continued until by the application of various tests he has satisfied himself that the pupil is proof against any danger or terror that he is likely to encounter. But however it may occur, the first actual realization that we are all while in the midst of a great world full of active life, of which most of us are nevertheless entirely unconscious, cannot but be to some extent a memorable epoch in a man's existence. So abundant and so manifold is this life of the astral plane that it is at first absolutely bewildering to the neophyte. And even for the more practiced investigator, it is no easy task to attempt to classify and to catalog it. If we explore some of the unknown tropical forests, we're asked to not only give a full account of the country through which we had passed, with accurate details of its vegetable and mineral productions, but also to state the genus and species of every one of the myriad insects, birds, beasts, and reptiles to which we had seen, he might well shrink appalled at the magnitude of the undertaking. Yet even this affords no parallel to the embarrassments of the psychic investigator. For in his case matters are further complicated, first by the difficulty of correctly translating from that plane to this the recollection of what he has seen, and secondly by the utter inadequacy of ordinary language to express much of what he has to report. However, just as the explorer on the physical plane would probably commence his account of a country by some sort of general description of its scenery and characteristics, so it will be well to begin this slight sketch of the astral plane by endeavoring to give some idea of the scenery which forms the background of its marvelous and ever-changing activities. Yet here at the onset, an almost insuperable difficulty confronts us in the extreme complexity of the matter. All who see fully on that plane agree that to attempt to call up before those whose eyes are as yet unopened a vivid picture of this astral scenery is like speaking to a blind man of the exquisite variety of tints in a sunset sky. However detailed and elaborate the description may be, there is no certainty that the idea presented before the hearer's mind will be an inadequate representation of the truth. So we're going to stop right there. That's our new series of reading tonight. C.W. Ledbetter, Theosophy stuff here. Interesting stuff because so many of the elites that is their religion of the New World Order is Theosophy. And of course it's a bastardized version of what it used to be, but it does show you that these guys are indeed into, the spiritual planes and the astral planes and into channeling entities and all this stuff. I mean, my God, they've got a temple inside the UN, for God's sakes. So this is definitely going to make for an interesting series of reading. Can't wait to get into it more with you in other shows. Want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight. Really enjoyed the show. Thanks so much, everybody out there, for continuing to tune in and tell everybody about our work. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. And please support our work and help us meet our goal there on both our chipping banners and get that done this week so we can get our job and get our work done, folks. Thank you so much, everybody out there who has supported us. You know who you are. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time. You guys have yourselves a great one. Take care.